Greetings and welcome to Temple Baptist Church here in Poplar, Bluff, Missouri. Today we're going to be in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, and I just want to read one verse there to you. I would encourage you to look at verses 5 through 12 and then verse 15. But verse 9 really is the meat of this and the meat of what we're going to talk about today in our devotional about relying on God and prayer. If calamity comes upon us, whether the sword of judgment, or plagues, or famine, we will stand in your presence before this temple that bears your name, and we'll cry out to you in our distress, and you will hear us and save us. For 5 years in the late 1800s, grasshoppers descended on Minnesota, destroying all the farm crops. Farmers tried everything they could to get rid of them, trapping the grasshoppers in tar, burning the fields to kill the eggs, and feeling despair and on the brink of starvation. Many people sought a statewide day of prayer, yearning to seek God's help together. The governor was reluctant to do that, but he set aside April 26 to pray. The day after the collective prayer, the weather warmed and the eggs started to come to life. But then 4 days later, a drop in temperature surprised and delighted many, for the freezing temperatures killed the larvae. The Minnesotans once again would harvest their crops of corn, wheat, and oats. Key thing to me is that praying was also behind the saving of God's people that we talk about here in 2 Chronicles chapter 20. Jehoshaphat stood up in the assembly of Judah and Jerusalem in the temple of the Lord in front of the new courtyard and said, and he goes on to talk about God and the ancestors and all of that. And the king Jehoshaphat, the king learned that a very vast army was coming against him, and he called on God's people to pray and fast. And the people reminded God how He'd saved them in times past, and we all know about that and things He's done for us. But if calamity comes upon them, whatever the sword of judgment or the plague or famine, they would cry out to God, and they knew that God would hear them and save them. He does, doesn't He? God rescued His people from the invading armies, and He hears us when we cry out in distress, and we certainly have distress in our lives today. Whatever our concern is, whatever it is, whether a relationship issue or something threatened from that natural world, lift it to God in prayer. Nothing is too hard for Him. God loves and cares for His people. He wants us to communicate with Him. He communicates to us through His Word. We communicate to Him through our prayers. Pray and ask God to help you in every situation of life. May God bless you is our prayer. Come and be a part of our services here at Temple. We meet Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock for our first worship service, and Sunday school is at 9 o'clock, second worship at 10, and then Sunday night at 6, and Wednesday night at 7. May God bless you is our prayer.